guys, this is Rupaul's Drag Race UK Thirsty Work, episode 6. There you go. So I finished up the episode and had a little drink. And maybe because of my diet, I am a little affected. So anyway, so we have 5 left. And I found the first 5 minutes to be the most confusing part of the episode because Vivian talks about being in the bottom and how great everything was, and I was like, oh, I like Vivian more. She seems more honest and stuff. And then all of a sudden, Davina was like, well, you don't respect me. And I was like, okay, did I miss something? And I like wrote, these are my notes. I wrote, DDC, why so angry? Did I miss something? 20 times better than on Drag Race? Okay, now I get it. What happened? So I found it really odd. I'm wondering if like there was a lot of tension in areas that weren't being filmed, and so when we saw this big confrontation, it had been simmering for a while, but it was just really confusing because Davina seemed really mad, but I kind of get it, but I don't fully get it. And then, but then she like comes out with that remark. I was like, oh, this is so awkward. Then she comes out with this remark like, oh, well, everything I've seen on here is like 20 times better than I've ever seen you in real life. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there's definitely some history here. So I found that really confusing as a viewer because I didn't get a lot of background and I couldn't follow the narrative, so to speak. So it was kind of a weird, it was a weird choice, and I know I'm not the only one who kind of felt that Baga and Vivian were getting a little bit on their high horse. But at the same time, it's like, but they are doing, I'm not saying they're doing badly. So I found the whole thing really, so I just was like, oh, then they played the game, briefs, commandos, boxers. But I guess it wasn't commando, it was camo dough. I don't know. I didn't quite get it. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad everybody else enjoys it. I didn't not enjoy it, I just didn't really get it. And it's all supposed to be like, oh, a sexy man in underwear. I got a sexy man in underwear at home. I know it's silly. I'm an old married lady who's happy with her husband. Sue me. Okay? So anyway, we go through. Davina wins. It's a call to Katya, which is like funny because on one level it's like the most meaningless prize, and on the other hand it's like the coolest prize ever. It's all based on the fact that those of us, I think, who love Katya just feel like it's a pure ray. I feel like if I got to sit with Katya and had that conversation where she was like, you're great, you're wonderful, you're the best, you're everyone's here to see you, Rue is your assistant, Michelle's an intern, I feel like that would be like ingesting a pure rainbow of joy. Like I could totally see how for someone that has that sort of feelings about Katya, how that would be just pure joy. But it was also kind of funny because on the other hand, it was a little bit like the other ones win and they get like some big prize, or they get to go on a cruise, or they get $10,000. And then this is like, oh, you're going to talk to someone that you'll be a co-worker with in the future. So I thought that was kind of funny. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. So it's supposed to be a call to Katya, and they get cut off. They do at first, but then they cut off, and then we find out that Katya is actually there, and she's out of the car, and she sits with her. And like I said, she gives her great advice, you know, kind of on the attitude, although I will say Katya has never won. But, as I always say, she won the hearts and minds of the fans. And so, I don't know how much any of them work and how much money they make, but my impression is that she is one of the more successful ones. She seems like she's everywhere. I'll watch any video with her in it. I know that I'm not the only one because I watch the videos and then it's like, I see Katya and I click go. It's just there's something really amazing, Katya and Trixie. And I see the other videos that are like, and I liked Jinx. I've never felt really compelled. I've watched a couple of her videos and I'm like, oh, okay, I should finish watching this. This is good. And then I click away, whereas I will watch a Trixie video. I will watch Katya. Those are the easy ones. And then it's kind of just hit and miss on what they're talking about and what's going on. It kind of depends. So anyway, they do that. They're going to make a commercial for some fake water. I always find these to be in the grand scheme of things, are these really drag queen? Well, they're performances, so in that sense, yes. They're a little different than the kind of performances they do. I find them sometimes a little bit, unless someone just really takes off or really crashes and burns, it's hard to tell what exactly they're judging on, because is it just the end product, or is it also how they behaved? And it seems to kind of be a mix of both. Like, they come in and they're kind of flustered and takes a while and they're difficult to work with, which I guess from Rupaul's standpoint, that is part of the challenge, being difficult to work with. But we got to see Graham Norton, who's hilarious and awesome. And it was kind of hard to tell, because sometimes the stuff that he laughed at and seemed to be enjoying didn't translate. Maybe it was the Not My Father's Root Beer, not an official sponsor, although if they want to send me a bunch of Not Your Father's Root Beer, I will gladly take it. And then Viv gives some advice to Cheryl. My notes are so bad. Then there was something to do with rainy days. I thought all the outfits were fine. I don't know why, and maybe hit me up in the comments and tell me if it was just me, but this was sort of a wah-wah episode. I just didn't, I don't know. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't, like, I didn't have a lot to say about it. Maybe because we're getting down to the end. Baga, so anyway, they do it. Baga, basically Blue, Cheryl, and Baga are in the bottom, and Baga's like, oh, I'm going to give up. I can't compete with these young kids. And I was like, first of all, you guys all look the same age to me. You all have this weird, not weird, like, the way that, you know how, like, celebrities, you feel like they're aging to a different clock, and you can't quite tell, are they 30 or 20 or 40, or are they a great-looking 70, or are they a rough-looking 40, or are they a, it's kind of like that, where you just feel like, I look at them, and I don't necessarily think any of them look old. I mean, Blue looks young, but other than that, I don't know. I would say that more of it is, like, by styling than anything else. Like, Viv and Baga tend to have older or more, when I say classic, I mean, like, referencing older things. So they're, but Jinx used to do that. Jinx used to reference older stuff, and it kind of made her look older. But anyway, so they're going to give up. I thought, oh, they can't put Baga in the bottom. And they did. They put Blue and Cheryl. I thought Blue's makeup and styling in the commercial was amazing. None of these commercials really stood out to me as so good. You know, like, oh, but neither were they so bad. I feel like a lot of they reminded me a bit of the mini challenge, where I watch it and I go, okay, you could have convinced me any of them won. Because it felt like it was so subjective. And I was like, okay. It's usually a lot clearer when someone, like, you know, is like, oh, I'm in New York, and they're like, that's Japan. I feel like it's clear then. Anyway, Blue and Cheryl. Cheryl Hole is based on Cheryl Cole, who was the guest star, and she sang to a Cheryl Cole song. I think I got that right. I guess there are people who say it was all rigged. I don't have a problem with the results. I thought Blue did really well. Top 5, but, you know, didn't make any farther. I kind of feel like that's fair as well. I think next to go will be Cheryl, and then we'll end up with Viv, Baga, and Davina in the end, which is fine with me. I would kind of be fine with any of them, but right now none of them to me are like, oh my gosh, they have to win, or oh my gosh, I can't believe this is, you know, like, I didn't like Tyra, and when they kept her on, I was like, get rid of her, you know. So I don't have that kind of thing. I don't have, like, Roxy Andrews, who was okay, but I felt like kind of carried along in All Stars. I don't have any of these where I'm like, this is someone who is still amazing, but maybe should have left earlier. And I don't have, I mean, there's been times when I'll look at Viv and I'll be like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. And then Bag of Chips where I'm like, no. This is hilarious. And then Davina's where I'm like, wow, that is so interesting. And so anyway, so there you go. That's who I think. I don't know. I mean, there's all these, like, spoilers, but I found out that the spoilers for Drag Race tend to be 50-50. And even when they say, like, oh, well, maybe Cheryl's going to go next week, that's what we see. I heard that 2 weeks ago, I heard that 3 weeks ago, I heard that 4 weeks ago. So far that rumor has been wrong all the time. I wouldn't be at all surprised if she gets through and someone else flops through. I think she's had some high points. Her highs have been really good and her lows have been you know, kind of middle of the road lows where you're like, okay, that's not a total bomb, but you know, she doesn't have her act together. So if she goes next time, it's kind of like, is that shocking? But I try to stay away from all of the spoilers because I don't want, like, I don't have money riding on this, so I certainly don't need to know faster than I want to watch the show. But I did see some people saying like Blue was robbed and all that, and it's like, okay, well, I don't feel that strongly about it. You know, she didn't have any, I don't know. Anyway, hit me up and let me know what you think.